Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have some dark romance recommendations to share with you. Lately, in the past couple months, I've been in the mood for dark romances, forbidden romances, taboo romances. So I do have a video where I talk about the most taboo romances I've ever read, but in this video, I wanted to give you guys some dark romance recommendations that if you haven't read these, maybe you could check them out if they seem interesting to you. I loved all of these books when I read them. I had such a good time. They give me that dark vibe, not like necessarily like super taboo or super forbidden, but just like darker aspects. So it could be a different type of relationship, could be like darker, I don't know, character traits. Maybe the characters have past that have a lot of damaging things, but let's just go ahead and jump in because I have a decent amount to share with you. So the first one is American Queen by Sierra Simone. I recently read this in April and I binged the whole series. I loved it. So basically the whole dark aspect of this book is because it is a polyamorous relationship throughout the whole series between the president, the vice president of the United States, and the president's wife. Now, obviously, in the first book, we get an introduction to each of the characters, to the president, to the vice president, their pasts, how our female character who happens to become the president's wife falls into that, how she has a relationship with both of the men separately over the last 10 years at one point. It's a lot of dark aspects in that case because it is polyamorous. Sierra Simone writes dark things, so the whole series does have more dark aspects to it, and I personally loved the first book. I thought it was such an interesting read and such an interesting take on, you know, polyamorous relationship that is in the media because they are the president and vice president, you know, has a big thing. I also love the political aspect of it. That's just me. If you like political stuff or any books that have political things in it, you will definitely enjoy this one. So highly suggest you check out this one. The next book I have is Lovers by Fiona Cole. So I have recommended Voyeur a couple times, which is the first book in this series. Technically, you could read each book in this series as a standalone. It just follows, you know, like the same kind of people, like you've seen them in previous books, but it's like totally separate stories. So in this case, it is an MMF romance. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in this book, and I particularly loved this book. I thought the whole aspect of one of our male characters and the main female character in this book, they have not an arranged marriage because I don't want to call it that, but they have been friends for a while and they thought, hey, let's just go ahead and get married. It'll benefit our, you know, companies, our followers would like it. So let's just go ahead and do it. And they've been friends for forever. So they decide, hey, we're going to get engaged. So they're engaged to be married. And our other main male character kind of comes into the picture because he has a past with our other main male character. So while it does start off as an MF romance, it does turn into an MMF or MFM at some points, polyamorous, I should say. And then it turns into an MM. It's not spoilers at all. I don't think it's spoilers at all. But this one's a little darker because it does dive into, you know, what happens when we bring another person into a MF relationship in particular, whether that's male or female. But in this case, it's another male into the relationship and how that plays out and people's feelings and all of this stuff that comes about. And I particularly loved it. I think Fiona Cole does touch on a male who doesn't know where they're going, even in his 30s, like how he is sexually and who he finds attractive, what sexuality he is. It explores that a lot too. So I particularly love this one too. The next one I have is Lord of London Town by Tilly Cole. I actually have another Tilly Cole book on this list, but I wanted to talk about this one. This is more organized crime mafia. So I think it's already in a mafia romance recommendations I've already posted. I'll link that in the cards for you to go check out. But I love this because it does dive into a lot of darker aspects. Obviously, there is the mafia aspect of it, but I particularly like this because it does touch on a lot of different characters that we see, and they each have a darkness inside of them. And it's talked about a lot in this book that the main male character, who is head of the organized crime mafia family in London, has this darkness in him, and how the female character has gone through things in the book that has that darkness inside of her too that comes out. So it's just a really interesting take. I wanted to put this book in this dark romance recommendations video because I think it does touch on a lot of darkness within the characters. So yes, it's mafia. We love that. I love mafia. There's a lot of organized crime aspect. There's an underground fighting ring that's very, very dark, very gruesome, very brutal. But also you have the characters and what they're going through and what they have gone through. it's dark as well. So overall, it's a dark book. I mean, a lot of mafia romances can be considered dark romances as well, but I wanted to touch on this one and recommend it because I think that the darkness that the characters go through and that they hold inside of them, if you've read this book, you know what I'm saying because I don't want to touch on it too much, but I love this book. Definitely go check it out. The next one I have is The Britt by Jodi Ellen Malpass. I've been talking about this book a lot too. I also put this in that mafia romance recommendations video. I just really enjoyed this one. While this is a mafia romance because he does take over the crime family for his father, I will say that this book is super, super dark besides that. Like, obviously it's mafia, there's a lot of organized crime stuff, but this one really focuses on the characters a lot. There's a lot of triggers. I will say they have 2 prologues. They both follow our main male character and then our female character, and they're both dark. There's triggers for sexual assault, sexual abuse of a child, and then her she's still a child for both of them when they're children. Her particular in her teens, him when he's like under the age of 10 or something, he's around 10. This book has trigger warnings for self-harm. It just touches on a lot of things, and that's what makes it super dark to me. It's not taboo in that way, it's just super dark, and both of the characters have a really beautiful character growth and character arc in this book, I think Jodi Ellen Malpass does a really good job of not focusing on one or the others, like history and past and their growth and moving forward. She focuses on both of them, and I loved it. There's kidnapping in this, obviously. It's how they're forced together. But this book really has a lot of dark aspects besides the mafia part of it. So I say that besides the mafia because obviously it's dark because it's mafia. But I think that this is considered a dark romance because of all the dark things that the characters go through and the things that come up and the things that is talked about within their pasts and what's going on inside them. So I love this book. Just gonna say it, I love this book. I will constantly be recommending this. I've been reading more of Jodi Ellen Malpass and I've been loving it. If you have any other books by her that you think I should check out, drop them in the comments because I'm always looking for more by her. The next book I have is I Need You to Hate Me by Genesis Fox. So this is one that's a light dark book, if that makes sense. I don't know. Everyone has their own level of darkness, if that makes sense. Like, some people may consider this book super dark. I don't consider it, in my personal taste, super dark, but there is dark aspects. So with this book, it does take place during college. There are new adult age, but if you know me, I've said multiple times, sometimes new adult books do not vibe with me, but this one, the characters felt a lot older because they go through things when they're a little younger, like during this age, so it makes them seem a lot older. They just go through things, so they are aged up in my head. I don't know if that makes sense, but it does to me. So in this one, our main male character meets our female character when she is looking for a room to, rent out to go to school because she's struggling hard. There's like an instant I hate you thing, and she's like, I don't understand why he hates me. I just don't understand why he hates me right off the bat. I don't know what I did to him. Like, I just don't understand it, right? Well, a lot of things come out in this book, and I can't say anything because it'll spoil it, but there is a lot of things. It's an emotional roller coaster, I will say. So this book is very emotional. Now, the first and second book are out, and they both end on cliffhangers, but the third book is not out yet. I'm going to say that because I like to say it if I recommend like a first in a series. I like to say that it's not finished yet because I know people don't like going into series when it's not done. I know that the author is writing the third book, but she does not have a release date as of now. I don't think she does, but I am super excited. I love it. It has this fighter aspect. He is an underground fighter. He's a bad boy. He is very damaged on the inside. He has a lot of things going on. Our female character is just struggling through life. Like I said, it's on the little bit lighter side, if that makes sense in any way, but I suggest people go check this out because I love this one a lot. The next book I have is one that so many people have recommended, but I'm gonna put it on this list anyway, and that is the Mindf series by St. Abby. This is I say series because it's novella length books. The first and second book are under 100 pages. The third, fourth, and fifth book are around 130, 150, give or take, right? So they are quick reads. So when you read the first one, it constantly ends on a cliffhanger, and you constantly have to know what happens next to these characters. Now, what makes this one dark in my view is because we have our female character. She is a serial killer. She is going around killing people that have wronged her in the past. I will say farther into the series, you find out what happens to her, and that's very dark as well. But also, the main male character in this book is an FBI agent who is working her case. I mean, along with other cases as well, but he's working her case. And obviously that has this forbidden aspect. But at the same time, she's a serial killer. So that makes this series dark in my point of view. So if you haven't read it yet, definitely read it. I know this went around TikTok a little while ago and I felt like I was the last person to read it, but definitely go read it. There are dark aspects. Know that she's a serial killer. Her morality is a little skewed, but I love her as a character. Everything she does, I understand at the end of the book, and I love her for it. So go read it if you haven't already. The next book I have is technically the third in a series, but I wanted to talk about it because I recently read it, and that is Savage Hearts by J.T. Geisinger. So this is the third book in her Queens and Monsters series. This is a mafia romance organized crime series. It goes back and forth between the Irish and the Russian mafia, but in this book, there is a little bit more darkness in it, only because he basically kidnaps her. And that's how they're forced together. She falls in love with him. He falls in love with her. And it's great. It's fantastic. I loved it. J.T. Geisinger really writes mafia romance and organized crime romances and dark romances in a way that makes it more digestible, if that makes sense. Like, she normalizes it. And that sounds so bad because it's like, what of a dark romance is normal? Nothing. But in my head, it makes sense. But J.T. Geisinger has become an author that I've really enjoyed her books. The more I read, the more I fall in love with her writing and the way that she develops characters quickly, but in a very digestible way. She does touch on a lot of dark things. In this book, our main male character is sent to go kill the future brother-in-law of our female character, and that guy and his soon-to-be wife, I guess you could say, has their own book. It's the second book in the series, which I love. But in this case, I wanted to touch on this one because our female character is the one that is very funny, but she is very relatable in a way. I love that she has this outlook on life that's different, but it's also really relatable. Like, when I read it, I was like, yes, I feel you. School, job, adulting fucking sucks, and she gets it. So when our main male character, you know, a little bit into the book, is like sneaking into her room and like, he's like, there's something about her. What is it about her? And then he kidnaps her and he's like, yeah, we're going to stay together in this cabin and no one really knows where you are. And yeah, I love that part of it. I love the captive aspect. I love the kidnapping aspect. And yeah, I just really loved it. It was great. It was a great read. It's a great Russian mafia book, and I enjoyed it. The next one I was going back and forth of whether or not to put it on this list, and that is The Never King by Nikki S. Crow. Why can't I never remember her name? Anyway, this book is a novella-length book. I call this a novella-length book. A lot of people may call it full-length. I don't. This is not a complete story. The next book is not out yet, but I do think it's interesting the way Nikki St. Crow, the author, wrote this in a way that there's kidnapping in this as well. I mean, obviously, kidnapping is a dark romance thing, but in this book, our main male character, it's a Peter Pan kind of retelling. I think it's a Peter Pan retelling. Oh, Peter and Wendy retelling. It's an enemies to lovers romance as well, but they have this prophecy. Is that the right word? I don't think it's a prophecy. I don't know what it is, but every woman that turns 18 in this family, technically Wendy's family, is kidnapped at the age of 18 and taken to basically what I call Neverland. We learn that there's a lot of fantastical aspects going on in this book, so it's hard. I go back and forth. I rated this 3.5 stars. I usually don't put books in romance recommendations video that I give lower than 4, but I wanted to put it out there because this is a super short novella-length dark romance. It's incomplete, like it doesn't on a cliffhanger, but you understand what's happening, and I enjoyed it. Like, I'm conflicted because it's so short. I feel like we didn't get a full-length story, and we should have, considering it's novella length, and usually with novellas you get a full-length story. I don't know, like, I wanted to throw it out there. If that seems interesting you, definitely go check it out, but here we go. The last book I have for this romance recommendations video is It Ain't Me Babe by Tilly Cole. I feel like I'm the last person on earth to read this book, but I read it and I loved it. I love this book. I also read the second book in the series, which is Heart Recaptured, and I'm throwing them both on this list because I do think that you need to read this first book in the series before you move on to the second book. This series, I guess you can say, is a motorcycle club / cult series. So most of our main male characters, well, from the first two books that I've read, our main male characters are part of a motorcycle club, and are both the female characters in this series in the first and second book are from a cult. So the first one, It Ain't Me Babe, is following this woman who runs away from the cult that she is in, and the president of the motorcycle club has found her, and that he takes her in and helps her and gives her a place to stay. Now, they both have a past. They meet when they're 11, really young, like through a fence. So there's like that aspect. But Heart Recaptured does follow the VP of the motorcycle club and the sister of this book, but she is like in that mindset that the cult is still her life. Like, she believes that is the way to live, while in this book she is like wanting to escape it. So you have that perception, but I will say that Heart Recaptured is probably, out of the two, the darkest. I should just keep holding this one up too, but It Ain't Me Babe and Heart Recaptured has a lot of triggers. In this book, it's talked about that she is raped when she is younger, but in Heart Recaptured, it's on page, so that was a little hard for me to get through. It was really triggering, to be honest. Like, it was hard to digest because I don't particularly like it. But these two books, I am super intrigued with the rest of the series. While I didn't like Heart Recaptured as much, I did love It Ain't Me Babe, and I will continue with the series. So I'm recommending like this book technically, but I'm recommending the series so far. So that was like a total, like, what book am I recommending? Definitely It Ain't Me Babe and Heart Recaptured, but just know that they're dark and there's triggers, so definitely check the triggers if those things that I mentioned are triggering to you. That is the dark romances that I have to recommend to you today in this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Drop your favorite dark romance recommendation, read in the comments down below. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.